craziest airport story I had. It was the first time I was ever traveling alone. I was 17 and I was traveling to Germany for a double base convention. So I was getting a flight from Dublin to Munich. So like I'm obviously not bringing my double base with me because it's fucking enormous, but I bring the bow. So usually what would happen is they'd be like, oh yeah, just chuck it under the scanner to send it through. But for some reason this day they decided it doesn't fit under the scanner. So I had to walk through the gate with it, and I was like, lads, this is obviously going to go off. The beep goes off, shocker, and they're like, oh, it looks like there's something metal in your case. They put it there and they scan me again, there's nothing on me. They scan the boat case, and they're like, we're just going to do like some standard checks on it. They get out this like probe which has like the little ball on the end, which is for drugs, and they scan my boat case. Your man goes away, and I'm stood there for like 10 minutes, and he comes back, and he looks at me, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna be real with you. It says there's cocaine in your boat case. I was like, okay, I can think you should slow right down here. He looked at me, and he was like, how old are you? And I was like 17, and he was like, I don't think you're the type. I'm gonna check it again. Checked it again, and he was like, yup, came up clear. And I was like, what the fuck? What do you mean? If they fully believed that there was cocaine in that boat case, they would incinerate it. I had just bought that boat, it cost me €950. I was not looking forward to it.
Yeah, fair.
That's the story.
So I was in Berlin, right? And as the classic things you do, you go to history museums, you look at the incredibly cool German fashion of the young hip people that are walking around. What I noticed is the young hip people had a very unique and interesting style. So we decided to go clothes shopping, and I found some amazing trousers. I tried them on, but I thought there's something wrong. It just like there was no place to put my belt. They're great, but I wish they had a fly. They don't have a fly. And then I was like, they're okay, but they're like the pockets are small. So they just don't fit, but they're really nice. Wish I could get them. My friend was looking at the same pair as well. So he went in. So anyway, we also were looking at the hats in the section. So I was thinking the hats don't actually fit. They're all in really small sizes. Anyway, my friend comes out of the changing rooms. He bought the pants. Like, these are the perfect pants for me. Yeah. We were just walking away, and I suddenly thought, it's an odd place to put the hat section. It was just looked weird because the women's section was immediately on the other side of it. And then I thought, the hats didn't really fit. And then it suddenly occurred to me, that was with the women's hats. And then I started to think about the pant. There was no fly, and the pockets were really small. And the pockets being really small was the actual giveaway for that one. You'd think it would be the fly. So I had to very politely go up to my friend and say, those pants? And he was like, yeah, they're great pants. They're my favorite pair of pants. And I was like, yeah, dude. So 3 of us lads, we walked into the women's section. That's why all the staff were looking at us funny. We both tried on the pants. We both thought they were good, but they had tiny pockets and no fly for some reason. That was just a normal quirk of this German funny dress sense. But that was the time that I nearly bought a pair of women's pants for myself, and he actually did. And he had to then dramatically go back into the same staff that he just bought them from, and they all the staff knew they had seen the whole thing. It was very dramatic.
I had been friends with Niamh Brown for a good while up to this point. I had asked if I could stay at hers for New Year's, and she was like, yeah, no bother. So I went back into Cork, and I was picked up by her man Siobhan. I can't remember what most of the conversation started off with, probably just brief introductions. But somehow my father came into the conversation, and I think maybe about 3 weeks or something before, I had maybe saw my dad watching a sex scene in a movie on his own in the kitchen, which he occasionally does. And then somehow, like the phrase, oh yes, my father's a fan of the Blue movies, came out. First time I met Niamh's dad, my mom was like, okay, let's leave it at that. And Niamh's just fucking dying up in the front seat of the car. I get home to the house. The story doesn't end there. Like, I get home to the house, and then we have dinner later on that evening. And it's my first time meeting Niamh's dad. And I didn't realise this at the time, but Niamh's father really does hate swearing. And apparently I was saying cunt at the table quite a few times, and he really wasn't impressed with it at all. And I think he went for a bottle of wine or something like that, and I took it off him and I said, no, you've had enough. I think I met Uncle Kieran for the first time as well. Niamh introduced me to him as David from Monaghan, he was the first person to ever question, why do you have to say he's from Monaghan, like? And I was like, yeah, good man, Kieran. I think the rest of the week went quite swimmingly. You know, I kind of an effort made on both of our parts. So for me to tone it down and stop swearing at the table, and for Siobhan and David to try and understand the type of fella I am, and just understand that I'm a bit odd, like I'm a bit of an oddball.
Yes, okay, so hi, I was just arriving in the Chicago airport visiting my friend Neil, right? So yeah, it was like an 8-hour flight. I was dead, I was tired, I didn't have any data because it was in
of course,
the United States, so you don't have any internet there. And the Wi-Fi didn't work because there were so many fucking people. And so I am like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? I don't have any cash. I'm gonna step outside to the taxi terminal, and as soon as I exit, there's this guy smoking a cigarette in the corner. He comes up to me and is like, hi, are you looking for a taxi? And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, follow me. My taxi is upstairs. I will drive you. And he takes my suitcase already. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll follow him. I'm really not too sure about it. But the thing is, I'm way too careful as a person. My judgment is way too fucking like, so I was like, okay, I need to trust people a little bit more. Not the perfect time to do that.
So what time to practice on?
Yeah, I know.
It's something you practice when you're buying a bag of Maltesers, not when you're getting into a car with a stranger.
But yeah, so we get like closer to his car, and so I literally ask him like flat out, how can I know you're a real taxi person, you know, can I adopt me? Because I can't lie in situations like this. And he was like, well, I can show you my taxi card. When we get to his taxi, I see, first of all, there's no other taxis in sight, it's just him. And so I'm already like, this is weird. And I see inside the car, there's no fucking Uber sign or anything. And then he pulls out his taxi card, and I can see when he's fumbling for his cards in his wallet, there's cards with different names on them. At this point, he starts putting my suitcase in the fucking trunk, and I'm like, I am so sorry. I cannot do this. So I just take my suitcase. I'm like, I am so sorry. I go back to the airport. I have a little panic attack. I finally managed to call Neve.
This is my favorite thing about the story, is that apparently Neve put this in one of Justine's top 3 panic attacks. I asked, what were the first 2? So this is what I asked, and apparently one of them is when you went swimming in the sea and it was too cold. And this is up there with that.
Why does she have him ranked?
更努力，只为了我们想要的明天。好好的这份情，好好珍惜。我们不一样，每个人都有不同的境遇。我们在这里等你。我们不一样。
Actually, can someone make some tea?
Oh!
I will fight you.
Yeah, turn around your phone.
I'm not doing anything.
No, turn around your phone.
Turn around.
Yeah, turn around.
Turn around.
Oh no, he pressed.
Oh, I can see the camera.
No, I'm looking at pictures of
That's
boobs.
so good.